Hey everyone, Chris here, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to this week's reading vlog. So we're already partway through the 22nd, so I actually do have an update. So going into this vlog, I was in the middle of 4 books. Rosaline Palmer Takes the Cake, The Deadly Fates, and Love Beyond Body, Space, and Time. I have not picked any of those up. Oh, and I had started Rune, but this is going to take me a while. Because I wasn't filming last night, I didn't want to pick up anything I was already in the middle of, so I ended up picking up Fried Green Tomatoes at the Whistle Stop Cafe. And I had used an Audible credit for the audiobook of this. I am on page 65, and I am DNFing this. So you have this older lady at a nursing home who is telling her life story to this middle-aged woman who is visiting the nursing home with her husband, who is there to see his mom. And she doesn't really get along with her mother-in-law. She's just going along for the ride. And so she ends up talking to this older lady who ends up telling her life story. So we see the middle-aged lady's POV, and I don't like her. And we see the older lady's POV, and it goes back in time. So there's obviously some questionable languages and attitudes, which makes sense because at the time period when the book is taking place, obviously you're going to be using certain language because, like, for instance, we're looking at like the 1930s. So obviously certain phrases and stuff are going to be used, which is fine. This book was also written in 1987. So something to keep in mind when reading it is that it's going to have that skew as well. However, it certainly didn't necessarily endear me to some characters, and I'm just not in the mood, I think, to read a book that features basically Black characters and them being treated as less than because they're Black. And, like, there's literally an entire conversation with the sheriff who is very obviously a member of the Ku Klux Klan, and the character who's talking to the sheriff knows this, basically points it out to him and makes it very, very known, and has no problem with Black people herself, but also has no problem continuing to interact with the sheriff, which, like, again, I know product of the times, but at the same time, I'm not in the mood to read that. There have also been some comments on Evelyn, who is the middle-aged woman's weight, and those have made me uncomfortable as well. So I just think maybe this is a book I go back to again someday, since I do own the audiobook. But I think for now I'm going to DNF it because it's just not jiving with where my head's at, and I'm not enjoying it. I just don't care. So then today, because I wasn't ready to film yet, I decided I was going to pick up another book off of my TBR that I hadn't started reading yet. So I picked up the book of Speculation, which I read the first chapter of for my try a chapter tag, and was intrigued by it, and I have gotten to page 110, and I'm DNFing it. So this book follows Simon, and in the first chapter, I believe he lives on, like, the Long Island Sound, and he is helping to kind of shore things up with a older neighbor who kind of watched him grow up. Both of Simon's parents are dead, and his mom died of drowning, despite the fact that she could hold her breath for 11 minutes, so it was thought to be intentional. And I believe his dad kind of just wasted away without his mom around. And he's got a younger sister that he kind of had to take care of because neither one of his parents were around / had the capacity at that point to do so. He goes home after doing what he needs to do with the neighbor, and there's a package on the porch that contains this mysterious book that has his grandmother's name in it. And apparently it is telling a story of doomed lovers and generations of circus mermaids who have drowned, just like Simon's mom, on July 24th, which is just a few weeks away, which then makes him worried for his sister who left to join the circus. So he starts to look into things and get worried about his sister and wondering if maybe she's going to be next, and maybe there is some sort of curse on his family. And the first chapter was really intriguing, and then the second chapter switches POVs. And I think if I had read that second chapter, I would have chosen not to pick up this book. I gave it a little bit longer because I was actually, invested in it and reading it, and it wasn't for a try a chapter tag. But I think if I had read chapter 2, I would have gone, okay, I don't think this is a book for me, because we switch POVs and that POV is very odd. We're following a wild boy. Well, he becomes a wild boy in a circus, but it's basically this boy who was left in the woods and has to survive kind of on his own, and ends up meeting this circus and joining the circus as a wild boy. And I just didn't enjoy that bit. And then we went back to Simon, and I didn't enjoy Simon's chapter either, but I did give it a little bit longer, and I don't care. I don't care. So this is another one I'm going to DNF. I'm trying really hard to be better about DNFing books that I'm not invested in, because I've been going into most months with like 60, 70 books on my TBR that I would like to get to in each month. If I'm not enjoying a book, I have plenty of other books I could pick up. So that's kind of where I'm at, is I picked up 2 books and DNF'd both of them. So here's hoping that my week goes better. I hope to get back to Rosaline Palmer Takes the Cake. I would like to finish the Deadly Fates. I need to finish Ruin and then start A Memory of Light. So that's also on the agenda this week. Wish me luck with that. And then I swear I am going to finish Love Beyond Body, Space, and Time this week. I promise. It's happening. This is the week. In addition to that, I also need to film my TBR for Cielo's Curious Chapters. I did the rolls. They were not kind to me. You'll see it in the video, but like, they were not kind, which makes me worried about that, because I still have to film that. So I think that is on the agenda maybe for tomorrow, just to get it out of the way so that I know what I'm dealing with in May. And because I know I'm not going to finish my April TBR, which means if something were to come up that would be very easily fulfilled by a book that's on my April TBR, I can go, okay, I'll just roll it over to May, and then I won't have to read it in April. And it can be one less book I worry about, because if I know I'm going to have to roll ones over, then I might as well utilize them and not have to still roll them over. Plus, I've already picked another book that fits that prompt perfectly. So that is going to be my week. It's going to be a very, very long week. So we're going to see how much I can get done. And yeah, hopefully when I next check in with you, I will have a lot of books finished, a lot of videos edited and uploaded, and we'll be in a much better, more productive space, because I think I'm going to sprint a lot this week. So we'll see how that goes. And I will try to check back in a couple of days. This time I do really, really mean that. I'm going to check in this week, I promise, and give you an update and let you know how I'm doing. is like 2:30 in the morning on the 27th, and I'm checking in. I'm actually checking in. The reason I didn't check in earlier today is because I wanted to finish a book, specifically before I filmed this clip, so that I could say I finished it. So today I finished Love Beyond Body, Space, and Time. I picked this up on January 31st, read the first 2 short stories in here, and then did not touch it again until yesterday. So like I said, this is a collection of short stories, and I ended up giving this 3.25 stars. There are how many? Let's see. There are 11, I think, short stories in here, and I liked 3 of them. So because I read this in January, I'm trying to remember which one it was. I think it was this one. No, that was the one I didn't like. I believe I liked Legends Are Made, Not Born. But that is one I read in January. But I'm pretty sure after glancing through it, this was one of the ones that I did like. Because I believe I said I liked one of them when I mentioned starting this way back in January. And then the other 2 that I liked are The Boys Who Became the Hummingbirds, which I thought was really, really amazing. And it started off very slow, and I wasn't sure I was going to get it. And then something in my brain clicked with what I perceived the message of the story to be, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. That one alone, I would give 4.5 stars. And then the other one I liked was by Darcy Little Badger, and I believe they wrote Elastaway. But I am not going to attempt to pronounce the name of it. What I'm going to do is go like that. I'm pretty sure this is an indigenous word, so I'm not going to attempt to pronounce that. But that was the other one I liked. So I enjoyed 3 of them, and the rest of them I did not enjoy. They would have been under 3 stars. My struggle with short stories is that I tend to get really attached to characters or plot, and in these, I don't think there's enough time to really get that attachment. It is really hard to do. So I was struggling there, and some of the stories felt like they either ended abruptly, or they started abruptly, or they just didn't give me enough detail to really understand what was going on. But the ones I did enjoy, I think were worth picking this up, so I'm actually really, really glad I read it, because that hummingbird one was so... The Boy Who Became the Hummingbirds by Daniel Heath Justice was just fantastic. And then, like I said, I enjoyed the one by Darcy Little Badger, and then the other one I enjoyed was Legends Are Made, Not Born by Cherry Demeline, I believe. So not a bad collection. Maybe if you like short stories, you'll enjoy this more. Cielo, please don't knock the camera. I thought for sure she was gonna rub her face against it, which would knock it forward. Come here. Come here. Oh. So if you're into short stories and sci-fi, this may be a book you enjoy. Even if you don't love them, I think, like I said, there are a few in here that are worth picking it up. So I would recommend it on the basis of those. So that is why I waited to check in, because I was really excited, because I was like, I'm going to finish this today, and then I'm going to check in, and I'm not allowed to check in until I finish this. So I promised y'all I was going to check in, so I had no choice but to finish that particular story, which makes me very, very happy. Next, I'm going to mention I read Death by Baguette, and this is the second book in the Travel Can Be Murder series, and I'm not going to remember the main character's name. I'm just not. And our main character's name is Lana. So we're following Lana, who's kind of like a tour guide. She works for her friend and landlord. So in this one, she is headed off to Paris. It's like a couple's getaway retreat for Valentine's Day that she is going to lead the tour for. And one of the couples consists of 2 of her friends who are going through a bit of a rough patch, so she's a little bit worried because she's trying not to take sides, and she's hoping that this romantic Paris vacation will help them. She has also just recently got back into dating herself, as in the first book we find out she's recently divorced and her husband had cheated on her, I believe. And so we see a scene with this new guy she found on like a dating app, and she had lied to him about what she did for a living, and is shocked when she gets to Paris and finds out that he is one half of one of the couples that is on this tour, because he was also lying to her. So she has to navigate hosting this tour for the guy she had been seeing, Chad, who was definitely cheating on his wife with her, which she is not okay with and not happy about, while pretending not to know him because that's what he asked her to do, and not make things awkward, and dealing with her friends and training a new tour guide at the same time. So she's got a lot going on. And then Chad, the paramour, ends up dead. And he had been a jerk the entire tour. And so everybody kind of has a reason to maybe have bumped him off some more than others, because there are 5 couples. So you have Chad and his wife, Lana's friends, 2 couples who are friends with Chad and his wife, and then a 5th couple that initially has absolutely no ties to the group, but soon seems to kind of develop potential ties and definitely gets rubbed the wrong way by Chad. So you can kind of see how everybody had motive. My problem is Chad was a jerk, so I just didn't care. I did not like the characters. I did not enjoy Lana and the way she acted about this whole thing. I thought the most realistic-ish part of this was the relationship between the friends and the struggles they were going through, and I thought that that was maybe the most interesting part of the book. Did I say I gave this 2.25 stars? I don't even remember if I did. If not, now you know. If I did, well, now I'm repeating it because I really, really did not enjoy this. This is the second book in the series that I did not enjoy. And I'm done. I'm DNFing this series. I technically own the 3rd book, but to me, it's just not worth it to sit through another one when I don't like our main character. And the 1st book only got 3 stars. And the only reason I continued this series in the first place was the hopes that it would get better in book 2, because I owned book 2 and figured I might as well give it a shot, and it just did not work for me. I did not like the way the mystery played out, and I just feel like it is not a series that is going to click with me in a way that I want to invest my time in. So we're going to move on from that series. And then I'm going to mention I finished Rosalie Palmer Takes the Cake. So this is a series that I am going to continue. I ended up giving this one 3.75 stars. So when I have talked about this before, I said I wasn't sure. And I wasn't. At the point that I picked this up, I think I was about just under a third of the way through. And I really wasn't sure. It was really easy to sit down and walk away from, but I'm glad that I went back to it. So this book follows Rosaline, who is a single mom and ends up going on a baking show to try to, maybe make things better for her and her daughter. And once there, meets a couple of contestants that she clicks with, including Alan, who seems to be everything one could look for in a guy. The back says he's suave, well-educated, and parent-approved, so there's a lot going for him, and she definitely has a connection to him. But she also really likes a sweet man who's on the show named Harry, who's an electrician. I did not like Alan. There was really not a moment during the whole book where I liked Alan. I would have liked this book, I think, if it had focused more in the beginning on the competition, and I think the fact that it focused more on getting to the competition and actually getting to the point where the competition was starting, I think I would have enjoyed it more. And I think that's why it was easy to set down, because we hadn't gotten into the competition. But it was interesting seeing what they all made, why they made it. There were literally times I was laughing out loud at this, which is why I'm glad I stuck with it. There was a scene towards the end of the book that was just amazing, and it is a scene that, do I want to say? I think I might. Okay, so if you followed me for a while, you know I don't like spicy romances. This has a little bit, but is not egregious or anything. It's not over what I would feel start to feel uncomfortable with. But there is a spicy scene towards the end of the book that might be legitimately my favorite spicy scene I've ever read. For reasons that are technically spoilers, so I don't really want to say, but it is by far and away easily my favorite spicy scene I've ever read, because it is one of the few that didn't make me uncomfortable. So I definitely want to continue the series because, one, it made me laugh. And that is such a nice thing to have in a book, especially given the way my brain has been lately. 2, the way that spicy scene played out made me curious to see if we see more of that in future books. And 3, because it's not like a new favorite series or anything, but is intriguing enough that I think it could be a fun, easy read. I've heard other people refer to them as like cheeseburger books or popcorn reads. Just something really easy, quick, fun. Like, I don't want to use the word fluffy because these aren't necessary. Like, this is definitely not fluffy because right in the beginning, before you even start the book, it says, author's note, this story includes a non-graphic scene of attempted essay. For further content warnings, please see the author's website. So there are definitely some heavier things in here, obviously, but it was just such a breeze to get through once I got over that hump in the beginning. And now that I understand the setup, the next book is going to once again take place following other contestants on this bake show. So I'm really intrigued by the concept. So we're going to continue the series because, again, finding a book that can make me laugh out loud is just an amazing find right now. And on top of that, like I said, that spicy scene was really surprising, like in a good way. Also, I should mention, I really do like Rosaline's relationship with her daughter and how that plays into the whole story. I completely glossed over her family life. And that story arc to this book. And I think it is an important one because she's doing this for her daughter. So it's really interesting to see that dynamic there and how that plays into her motivations and the relationships that she develops and the relationships she has and how those grow and change throughout the book. So I had a good time with this and am definitely willing to give the next book in the series a go based on how much I ended up enjoying this one, even though it did start a little bit slow, admittedly. Then I read Ways to Build Dreams, and I gave this 4 stars. This is the 4th and most recent / final book, I'm not sure, in the Ryan Hart series, and we're following, well, Ryan. They're coming back to school after Christmas break, and it is 5th grade, so everything is starting to gear up for middle school. And Ryan is worried about middle school. She's worried that one of her friends won't be able to go to the same middle school as her because her mom is questioning whether she wants to send her daughter to a different middle school. And so Ryan is nervous about potentially not just middle school, but having to kind of do it on her own. They are also starting to be posed the question in this one, what do you want to be when you grow up, or who do you want to be when you grow up? And so it makes Ryan start to really think about her future and not just like the career she wants to have, but the type of person she wants to be. And I thought this stressing the idea of not just what do you want to do with your life, but what kind of person do you want to be and how do you want to display that was such a good message for kids, that there's a lot more to life than what you do for a living. Because, like, for instance, it doesn't matter whether you're a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher or a cashier or a waitress or a garbage person. Like, it doesn't matter what your job is, because there are going to be good people and kind people and thoughtful people and giving people who are lawyers and doctors and teachers and garbage men and waitresses. And then there's going to be selfish people and mean people and deceitful people who are lawyers and doctors and teachers and garbage people and waitresses. Like, so it is less about the job because you're going to find all different types of people in all of those jobs. The question is more, and definitely stressed in this, what kind of person do you want to be? Like, who do you want to be? And I love that that was kind of the focus of the message of this book, because I don't remember being asked that as a kid. I remember being asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? So I love the idea of suggesting to kids, not just what do you like, what job do you want, what is your career, but what do you want to be when you grow up? What kind of person do you want to be? How do you want to impact the world with who you are? And I really thought this did a great job. And I'm actually talking myself into giving it a higher rating as I'm sitting here, because I think the message is so good that I think I may end up changing my rating and bumping this up, because, like I said, it's such an important message. And I thought it did such a really good job of hammering that home. So I had a really, really good time with this. This is a fantastic series. If you have little ones in your life, I would highly recommend it. And then the last book I finished is Ruin. And I gave my reread of this 3.75 stars. It was originally 3.5. I bumped it up a quarter star because I actually knew what was going on. So when I read this the first time, it had been enough of a break between Valor and Ruin that I was like, who are you again? Which side of this conflict are you on? How do you factor into things? And that's not to say that, like, we don't have this lovely cast of characters page, which I definitely referenced at time to remind myself of who was who and where they were from, because we do have a map with all of the different banished lands. And that definitely helped because there's so many characters in here that sometimes it can be hard to keep everybody straight. The main players I've got down now. But there's a lot of side characters where they'll reference somebody, I'll go, wait a minute, which one of you was that again? And then it's nice to have that to refer back to. I had forgotten that this left on a cliffhanger. So I'm very glad that I will be reading Wrath next month, and I'm going to try to read it towards the beginning of the month. I would be surprised if Wrath got more than 4 stars, because I feel like this is a series I've liked less as it went on. And I can honestly say, knowing that I will be picking up A Memory of Light tomorrow, which is the 14th and final book in the Wheel of Time series, that I think I'm honestly more interested in how that wraps up than how this wraps up. And that is surprising to me, which is why I think it won't get more than 4 stars. So I thought that was just an interesting little tidbit to add in, that I think I'm more excited to read the final book in the Wheel of Time series, not because I'm excited to be done with it, which I very much am, but because I'm actually more curious about how things are going to shake out there and how things end up wrapping up than I am in this one. Because I think there were times for me with this one where it just felt slow and it kind of dragged. I will say there were a couple of scenes in here, and obviously this is a book that features war and battles, and so there are definitely some bloody, gory, nasty scenes, and a couple of those stuck really, really well in my head. Because they weren't, but I couldn't have told you which book they were in. Well, they were in Ruin. The answer is Ruin. So that was interesting. There was one in particular that I was like, I know it happens. I know I've read it. We're in Ruin now. I haven't read Wrath, so it's got to happen in here. And I was surprised by where it happened. Because if you had asked me to, like, go, I think it happens, like, say, this far through the book, I would have been way off based on where my perception of when it happened was. So that was kind of interesting. But the ending, I had completely forgotten the ending. So definitely glad I reread this, and looking forward to being able to wrap up this series next month. I have made no more progress on the Deadly Fates, though I do plan to get to that in the next couple of days. And I have started my reread of Nevermore. I've read it the whole, like, first chapter, so we're 24 pages in. Woo. I've obviously got a ways to go on this, but this should not take me any time at all, and I'm already just so excited to be back in this world, even only 24 pages in, because I love this series. And I was looking at my Storygraph page, and I read this series in 2020, and in 2021, and 2022, and 2023, and I did not read it last year. So it's actually been like a full year since I've read this book. Well, more than a full year since I read this book. So very, very excited to start my reread of this, and I wouldn't be surprised if Wondersmith is one of the first books I pick up in May, because I just continue the mojo. And then the last update I have is that I have started Rolling On, which is the 3rd book in the Rolling With It series. I'm on page 87. I should easily finish this one tonight or tomorrow. And this series follows Ellie, who has cerebral palsy, hence the wheelchair. And so I love that there is this disability rep in here. The author has a son who has cerebral palsy, so she definitely knows what she's talking about. So I love that it is pretty authentic. So in this one, everybody is starting to talk about high school, and Ellie is just not interested. She's got more things to deal with than that. Like the fact that she suddenly noticed that one of her best friends maybe gives her butterflies, and she's not the only person that is starting to look at them in a different way. And the fact that there's some family issues going on that are definitely taking some of her attention. And so we're kind of seeing Ellie deal with all of those kind of upheavals happening at the same time. I'm enjoying this, and I look forward to seeing how this wraps up because there has been a lot packed into those 86 pages. So that's my update. I expect to finish Nevermore and Roll With It and The Deadly Fates because I'm bound and determined to finish as much of my TBR as I possibly can. I also plan to work on A Memory of Light. I think that's what it's called. The 14th and final book in the Wheel of Time series. And because my audiobook is almost due, we're going to be listening to the third Gilmore Girl. I did not watch Gilmore Girls, but I do know of the show. And one of you, at some point, whether it was on a video or during like one of my sprints, mentioned this was fantastic. And you don't need to be a Gilmore Girls fan to enjoy this story. And I love a good autobiography. So I requested it from my library. It finally came in. I have the audiobook. So we're going to give this a shot as well because I do love a good biography. And I know of Gilmore Girls enough to know who she was. Like, I could have told you that she was on Gilmore Girls if you had shown me her picture. I wouldn't have known her name. And I wouldn't have known the character she plays. I probably could have figured out. Like, I think she's the grandma on Gilmore Girls. Yeah. Wait, what? It says, after more than a half a century in show business, Kelly Bishop has stories to tell, from her Tony Award-winning performance in the original Broadway cast of A Chorus Line to playing Jennifer Grey's mother in Dirty Dancing. My jaw is on the floor. What do you mean she's Jennifer Grey's mother in Dirty Dancing? Okay. I'm going to pick my jaw up off the floor because I love Dirty Dancing. I love that movie. I had no idea. Okay, this is definitely one I'm excited about now. Thank you to whichever one of you suggested I should read it. I am blown away right now. Just flabbergasted. Anywho, I'm going to go curl up and read that because what? Just, yeah, we're going to go now. And I will check back in with you in a couple of days to let you know all about Kelly Bishop and all the things I didn't know that I knew Kelly Bishop from. So it is officially May, and I'm here to wrap this vlog up. Technically, this vlog was supposed to go through the 28th, and then I was supposed to have a 2-day vlog to wrap up April. And I just completely forgot to film. Just never even crossed my mind. I realized it like late on the 29th and went, well, I guess I'm just going to tack on these last 2 days and make it a super vlog to wrap up April. It is technically actually right now, May 2nd. I was not feeling great earlier, so I did not film. I was too tired last night before bed to film, and then today I just didn't feel great. My allergies have been whooping my butt. But I've heard it's awful for everyone, so it's not just me. I'm watching her as she's checking things out and probably going to wreck stuff. I mean, that's what Cielo likes to do because she's so helpful, y'all. Anywho, I did manage to squeeze in a few more reads before the end of the month, so let me run you through them, assuming Cielo does not wreck things. First off, I mentioned I was going to read the third Gilmore Girl and had an existential crisis when I realized she was the mom from Dirty Dancing. I gave this 4.5 stars. I thought this was absolutely fascinating. I loved hearing her journey. I had no idea she had done so much in her career. And for me, I always thought that the person who played the mom in Dirty Dancing was this like famous actress because I knew who Jerry Orbach was. And it just never occurred to me that, you know, Kelly Bishop wasn't also a household name. Not that I knew her name, but like, I just always assumed. So it was surprising to me to realize that she was not this like super ultra famous actress. So I thought that was really interesting. She's had an amazingly fantastic career. It is absolutely fascinating to hear how she got her start, the journey she took to get to the Gilmore Girls, which is, I would say, the thing she is most known for, and all of the ups and downs life throughout that journey. I absolutely love this. And if you like biographies or autobiographies or memoirs, I 100% would recommend this because it is a really, really fun time. It is also really fun to listen to the audiobook because she narrates it. So I would also highly suggest that if you like audiobooks. Then I read Rolling On, which is the third and final book in the Roll With It series. And I gave this 4.25 stars. So this follows Jamie, and she has cerebral palsy. And in this one, she is dealing with not being excited about high school like a lot of the other kids she's going to school with, along with maybe sort of kind of getting butterfly feelings when she looks at one of her best friends. She's also got some family stuff going on that she has to deal with in this, and it's just a lot for her to deal with all at once. I really enjoyed this. I think it does a really good job at looking at what happens when you start to develop feelings for a friend and how you can go about handling that. I think Ellie does so in a way that feels very genuine. Ellie has so much that she is going through in this book. The family stuff was a bit hard to read about, but I still enjoyed it, and I still thought it was interesting to add that in on top of everything else she was dealing with and seeing how Ellie decided to juggle everything. I thought the way this book ended was really well done, the way everything kind of got drawn together in the end, and I thought that it was the perfect way to end this series. So definitely enjoyed this and would recommend it for middle graders because I think it's got a lot of things to really enjoy about the series as a whole. Then I did a reread of The Trials of Morgan Crow, and I gave this 5 stars. I love this series. It was so much fun being back with Morgan and Jupiter and getting to see this journey start all over again. It was absolutely what I needed, and you'll understand why when I mention the next book I read, because I think it balanced with that very, very nicely. So it was a lot of fun picking this back up, and it just makes me so excited to read book 2 and 3 and then finally get to continue Morgan's journey. The other book I was reading as I was reading Nevermore was A Memory of Light. I read this sucker in 4 days, and I gave it 3.5 stars. I did not like the ending of this book at all. Also, fun fact, I listened to the audiobook, and there is a chapter in here that is 9 hours long. 9 hours. So if you listen to the audiobook at 1x speed, it will take you probably all of the reading time you have in a day, if you've scheduled out a day to just read that one chapter. So needless to say, I ended up not sprinting on Wednesday like I'd hoped. And this is part of the reason I was really tired Wednesday, is because I was trying to cram the last bit of this in, which included that 9 hours. So I think I had like 13 hours left. And I listened to it at 3x speed, which means I had a little over 4 hours left. But I was trying to cram it in before Dynamite started yesterday. Oh boy. It was intense. Like I said, there were a lot of things I did not like about the end of this book, which brought my rating down. I think it was very well written. Like, I've definitely noticed the difference between the way Jordan was writing towards the end of his life and the way Sanderson kind of wrote things after he picked it back up. Like, I felt like there is just a slight difference in the way things flowed, because the flow of this I really enjoyed. It was just a lot of the decisions that were made and a lot of the way things shook out I did not like, which brought my rating down to a 3.5. So I would personally say, if I had to go back and advise what would have been like 2022 me as to whether they should pick up the Wheel of Time series, I would say no, because the ending was not worth the slog that the middle chunk of the series is. And I could have been reading so many other books in the, 909 pages of this one. So for me, it wasn't worth the journey, but I'm happy to say I've finished it and I can put it behind me and move on to something else. And then the last book I finished in the month of April, which I was also tandem reading and bouncing back and forth with A Memory of Light, was my reread of Rising Shadows. I intentionally put these together, Nevermore and Rising Shadows. Rising Storm. It's not Shadows, it's Storm. Rising Storm. I put these together so that I was reading books I knew I would enjoy and that required a lot less brain power while reading A Memory of Light. So I did that on purpose. This is the 4th book in the Warrior series. And y'all, I am loving my reread of the series. It is so much fun to be back with these cats I love and know so well. And seeing how this journey started all over again. I don't really want to say too much more because book 4, spoilers, and it is really hard for me to talk about these books because I have to think so hard about what I'm saying before I say it because I don't want to accidentally say something that is a spoiler. So it has been very interesting being back in this world, and I cannot wait for book 5 in May, and hopefully I'll be able to pick up the graphic novel version of this in May as well. So we'll see. So that was the end of my April. I am pretty proud of the fact that I managed to read A Memory of Light in 4 days, off the back of finishing Ruin, off the back of finishing Valor. Also, I did say I was more excited for A Memory of Light than I was for, I think it's Wrath. And I'm hoping that Wrath does not disappoint me as much as A Memory of Light did. So we'll see, because that's on my TBR for next month. Also, he's a bug. Look at him. Look how cute he is. Anywho, I'm pretty happy with that. It was a slow month, because I believe I only read 45 books in the month of April, which is still a ridiculous number. But every other month I've cracked 50, so this was a slow month. It's going to be interesting to see where May goes. Like I said, my allergies have been kicking my butt, so it has not been fun the last few weeks because I'm lethargic and my eyes are itchy and I have postnasal drip, and like right now I can tell you I have a slight sinus headache, and it's just been miserable. So we're gonna see how May goes. Fingers crossed it goes better than April, at least in the allergy department. And yeah, that, however, is going to be the end of April and the end of this vlog. All of my social media is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me like shower emojis, so like raindrops, that kind of thing, because April showers bring May flowers. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!